Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. Paul Jasson with you. Thank you for joining us. Beautiful day in downtown Lancaster, as most of them are this time of year. It's summer everywhere but on the calendar. It is warm, it is a great time, a lot of things happening in downtown Lancaster. And speaking of that, I would invite you to go to destinationdowntownlancaster.com, for on that website, lots of things there. It's a great website, lots of things going on, but one of the things I looked up is their mission. And their mission is to enhance downtown's business climate while promoting and preserving historic identity as a center of cultural activity. And I don't know many organizations that fulfill their mission day in, day out, like Destination Downtown Lancaster. So who better to tell us about that than the Executive Director of that very fine organization, Amanda Everett.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul.
You fulfill that daily.
Well, do you know what's wonderful? That is such a group effort. We have an incredible board of directors at Destination Downtown Lancaster, as well as teams of hundreds, literal hundreds of volunteers that support that important work on the day-to-day basis, as well as a fantastic staff that I feel extraordinarily lucky to have working with me on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's a great organization, and I would certainly tie you and your group into what's going on downtown now, because in my mind, I kind of put it back to, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, right when the festival was going on, because we were doing the live shows we do that week of the festival, and they were opening up a new business called the Ale House. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that moment kind of turned the downtown around, because everybody's complaint always was, well, there's nothing to do downtown. It's nice, it's historic, you got museums, yada, yada, yada. But, well, from that point on, and you came on, can't be very long after that.
No, it was right. It was shortly after that.
Sure.
David Scheffler,
yes,
our wonderful mayor of Lancaster, was the previous director of Destination Downtown Lancaster. I am now entering in my 6th year, but I think that there were a lot of really pivotal points that culminated in what we're enjoying right now.
Kind of this perfect storm of things.
Perfect storm that continues to happen.
Yeah.
So what we had was really, this is the thing that I credit the success with the most, really unprecedented levels of collaboration and investment. Success begets success, and when you have county government and city government and nonprofit organizations, you have the Visitors and Convention Bureau, Visit Fairfield County, you have private investors and developers like Brad Hutchinson, all rowing in the same direction. Man, can you go far, fast.
And that's what's happened.
That's what we've seen. We saw business owners and property owners like Matt Brady take that risk, make that investment, but would he have made that investment if the city had not invested in that historic redevelopment of that beautiful gem of the Columbian Building, which now houses our municipal courts. Yeah. And then after that, we remember that the mid-off was going to be raised. That would have been a parking lot had not Brad Hutchinson purchased that and invested in that legacy project to bring that building back to life like it has never seen before. And again, when people see their neighbors, their fellow community leaders believing in a community, investing their dollars and putting their money where their mouth is, it inspires you to get on board. And that could mean a huge thing like purchasing a building and taking on a massive revitalization project. But it could also mean, you know what, this year I'm going to put out planters and I'm going to plant some beautiful flowers, or I'm going to give my building a fresh coat of paint, or I'm going to choose to open my small business in downtown Lancaster and not in a strip mall. Again, this is all really that wonderful chain effect, that butterfly effect that happens, because when we show the people that this is a place that people care about, then what happens is people treat it better. People want to be a part of that, and they start caring more about it too. And I think that that's what we're enjoying right now.
And you talked about the mid-off and how that was so close to not being anything but a much-needed parking lot, which would have been great.
Well, I will disagree on you there, but that's a whole other show, Paul.
Then that is another show. But it triggered something in me to thinking about events that change long-term.
Yeah.
A building just about a block behind us here who was in that same position, the Georgian. It was so close to being gone. It was shabby. It was terrible. Well, a bunch of women in this community saw the need for that, and that turned the corner on what is now this whole historical thing here in Lancaster, and that was a great beginning that led to all this also.
And that was started by the wonderful Fran Utley.
She was
and
great.
And she mobilized this group of powerful women within this community.
They were.
And said, we care about this and we're going to do something. So it's really just a continuation of that story that we, as the people of Lancaster, when you have that civic pride, when you're dedicated to something, you can change things for the better. And it's much more lasting when it's people of this community that are going to stay in this community, those local folks, because they've got skin in the game. We live here. We work here. We raise our families here. And that's when you see the most successful communities, when it is people power, and they are taking these projects forward, saying, we care about this, and we're going to do something about it.
Amanda Everett, who is the Executive Director of Destination Downtown Lancaster, and destinationdowntownlancaster.com, great website, tons of information, all the things we're talking about, and way more. But when you look up and down Main Street here, you don't see many openings. You see the businesses now filled in. I mean, and maybe the one or two that are open, there are people that some buzz about that.
Yeah.
But even if you get onto the Well down that way, and you look at the things, the
Wow.
Keller Market House down that way,
Yes.
a little bit off Main Street, a couple blocks, and it's just busy everywhere. Exciting.
It's growing from the center out.
Yeah.
We have more development projects in the works, and really transformational development projects. Let's talk about Essex. The Essex Wire Forming Company, the old shoe factory that has been vacant for 25 years.
Yeah.
This is a giant, massive building that it has wonderful architecture. And again, once we lose these buildings, they literally don't make them like they used to. It is near impossible to rebuild them. We simply don't have those quality materials like that old growth wood, like that sandstone available. If it is available, it is not economically feasible to engage in that project. And so we must protect this. This is a part of our heritage. And these old buildings do so much better than these new builds because they were built at a time when those materials were of such high quality. This is going to be an extraordinarily transformational project. Urban Restorations has been awarded $3.3 million in historic state tax credits. They also have federal state tax credit, federal historic tax credits, and they're going to engage in a massive revitalization project, which will culminate in 60 plus market rate apartments on floors 2 and 3 of the Essex Building, and a first floor retail, a restaurant, coffee shop, all of the wonderful things that you would see in thriving metropolitan communities right here in our Lancaster. And so again, we just keep building out. We have another development project that's happening on Walnut Street of all places, where a really dilapidated building is going to get the royal treatment. And again, we're building beautiful quality places that people will feel proud to be in space with.
And as we jump back to the Essex, I had the mayor on a couple months ago, and he was talking about that very project. And it sounded like in his talk that there were moments when that deal sort of looked like it might fall apart, where it might not get through. But these urban boys, they didn't give up.
They didn't give up, and we worked together in lockstep with them. So our economic development director at the city, and again, this goes back to the collaboration, we at Destination Downtown Lancaster were wrangling those business owners, getting those letters of intent for those businesses that wanted space on that first floor, because this all goes into that application, which can give them more points, which gets them the award. So we had folks at the county land bank level, looking at demolition funding. Everybody, again, rowing in the same direction so that we could help those fantastic folks at Urban Restorations over the finish line to make this a feasible project here in downtown Lancaster.
Well, it's just this synergy you're talking about where every piece of the puzzle, it doesn't just fall into place. There are people like yourself, like city, like the county, like Brad, like other people that make these pieces fall together. And when the dominoes fall, what can happen is amazing.
It really is. Again, it just goes back to the people and the entities and that wonderful communication and sense of teamwork.
So what's next? When would the Essex, is that years down the road probably?
Surprisingly enough, these folks move fast. This is the largest project that they have ever engaged with, but they certainly are used to doing these types of projects. And so they have a 2-year timeline.
Wow.
That's pretty aggressive.
Wow.
So we're very excited about that.
Well, it sounds like this is in their wheelhouse and they know what they're doing here. So exciting times down here. The festival's getting ready to come. Always an exciting time for your team and to work with that. The work you do is amazing over there.
Thank you.
It's such fun to watch the downtown come back. I remember it as a kid here and what it looked like at 12 o'clock when Anchor Hawking let out over here. You see pictures. And you come downtown now and every parking spot on Main Street is filled.
Yeah.
Every restaurant is filled.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see this.
It's wonderful. Just stay tuned for all of the new things that are coming.
We can only imagine. Well, maybe we can imagine what this young lady has planned here. Amanda Everett, thank you for joining us. You're doing great work. We'll stay in touch. Always fun to chat with you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Amanda Everett. Destination Downtown Lancaster. We'll be back in a moment.
You walked down the aisle and promised happily ever after. Sometimes happily ever after means ending a relationship. We know the conversations are not easy. Deciding what's best for you, your children, and your next steps takes work and communication. At Dagger Law, we know there are no monsters in a divorce, only people trying to find their way. Local, trusted, experienced. Dagger Law.
The staff that have been here know what it takes. They've been on the other side. They see what it takes to make someone comfortable, to make the family comfortable, and really what kind of support they need. And so I think that's what really makes Fairhope what it is.
You quit smoking and thought, that's that. But here's the thing about lung cancer. By the time you see the symptoms, it could be too late. But now, there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early when it's more curable. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
My name is Allie. I just became 14 years sober at the end of last month. Through the support of my family and friends, I got the courage to ask for help. And through treatment services and the recovery community, I was able to start my recovery journey. Now I get to work as a peer supporter and an addiction treatment navigator where I get to help the next sick and suffering. If you don't have family and friends that can support you right now, you can find those supports through treatment providers, the recovery community, and peer supporters like me. Every life matters, and your recovery is worth it.
This message is brought to you by the Fairfield County Adam H. Board.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. If you're from Lancaster or Fairfield County, the history of what has occurred here in Lancaster, particularly, but in Lancaster, but around Fairfield County is big. The Sherman House, the Georgian, just the things we have here, the Decorative Arts Center, a lot of history up there with the Ewings and things going on in this area, amazing. And there's nobody better to talk about all that than Michael Johnson, who we've had on before, but we've got a little something different to chat about along with all that. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Another exciting time.
Absolutely.
It is every week.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. History just, it's like history keeps going on.
Right.
I don't know what that's about.
Interesting.
It's something we haven't talked about for, I think you said it's been 4 years, the tour of homes since 2019?
Since 2019, we haven't been able to do it due to COVID.
Sure. Well, this is the, back at it now, the 52nd annual tour of homes. It's 11 to 5 coming up here on June 24th and 25th, so pretty quick coming up here this weekend. And we got a lot on board now. You haven't done it for a while, but now it looks like it's back full go.
It's back full go, and we have 11 properties for people to tour, 5 private homes and 6 public spaces. So it's an eclectic mix.
Sure.
It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting tour, to say the least.
Well, and you look at some of the homes are on Broad, they're on Chestnut, a little out of town, Pleasant View. We're not out of town, but in the suburbs a little bit.
Yes.
Pleasant View and Glenmar out there in the Wacker Edition. Those kinds of going on. Beautiful homes there, things these folks have done.
Yeah, see, the Glenmar and the Pleasant View are probably the 2 most unique homes on the tour. It's a little bit different than what they've done in the past. So the house on Glenmar actually belongs to an artist who during COVID decided to spend her time putting murals all over her home. So the inside of her home, it's like walking into another world. Each room is a different theme.
Really?
Yeah, so her living room is like an Italian villa. She has a safari and a bedroom. Her whole basement is like you just dove underwater. It's a complete underwater scene from sharks and shipwrecks to even SpongeBob is painted on her wall.
Really?
It's an amazing thing to see. So I think that's going to be a favorite stop, I think, for people. And then Pleasant View is another one of those ones that are going to be really unique. That one was an old GE home, one of the homes that GE built, that all electric. And what they did was they decorated it like somebody left the home in the 60s or 70s and never came back.
Oh.
So when you walk into that home, the appliances are from that era, the furniture's from that era.
And this is their living home.
This is where they live, yes. The TVs are from that era. The bedrooms have toys from that era. So there's going to be a lot of flashbacks for people when they walk through that.
They've gone out of their way to make this very period perfect.
Absolutely. And they are working with GayFad Studios.
Well, that's the perfect.
And GayFad's going to have things on display there. They're going to have old cars out there from that time. They are really getting into this.
That's perfect.
So those 2 homes, they're not in the downtown area, but they are definitely worth the extra little drive.
And they don't have to be in the downtown area to be part of this. This is the 52nd tour of homes this weekend, June 24th, 25th, 11 to 5. Tickets are available where?
You can get them on our website at fairfieldheritage.com, or you can call the office at 740-654-9923.
It's a good website, fairfieldheritage.com. Is it .com or .org?
.com.
.com.
Yep.
Great website. Tons of good stuff on there. And again, tickets are just a part of that. But June 24th, June 25th, coming up here. But I was looking at the other one, St. Mary's. If maybe everybody hasn't seen, since it's been restored up there a couple of years ago, it's
Beautiful.
Amazing inside.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most stunning pieces of architecture around.
Oh, and it was great before, and now they've even enhanced that with the changes.
Well, now that
very subtle changes.
Now that you're a basilica,
yes,
you have to up your game
big.
a little bit,
and they
right?
did, and they did. But I was looking at some of the other ones. The Masonic Lodge on High Street, just a couple blocks from here. Go up the hill and turn right, and you're there.
Yep.
You talk about great architecture. That's an amazing thing, and here's your chance to see that if you haven't been in there.
Yeah, and I think that's one that maybe a lot of people haven't been inside.
Exactly right, because it's been kind of sequestered there for just the Masonic Brothers.
Right, and they have been doing more community events and getting out, so
and they've
it's
wanted
great
to
see
do that.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
And then right around the corner from that on 221 East Walnut, this may be the ones that are in here, and as Michael's talked about, I mean, every one can stand alone as a great place. But recently, the last couple of years, they've spent so much effort and time and sweat and money on the Allen Chapel over on Walnut. That's really something to see. The historical aspect of it that they've engaged in that now is amazing.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal, and it now has a historical sign out front that we worked with them on, and it is now located not only on Walnut Street, also known as Scipio Smith Street.
That's exactly right.
Because that was just recently dedicated as a secondary historical
that just
name
happened
for that
like
street.
a week or two ago.
Yeah, they just put those signs up not too long. Yeah.
It's really something to see. And again, a lot of people perhaps haven't been in there, or if they have,
Right.
it was more run down when they saw it.
Right.
It's worth the ticket price just to see this.
Absolutely. Yeah, those properties right there, those three properties in a row there, St. Mary's and Masonic Lodge, and
all
Allen
within
Chapel,
walking distance.
Walking distance, and gorgeous properties.
Sure. And then two pieces that are pretty close to your heart.
Yes.
Sherman House and the Georgian.
Absolutely.
Museums, beautiful locations. Those will be open too.
Absolutely. Yep, they'll be open at the same time as the rest of the tours, so you can stop in there as well.
Now, are these, and the hours are, again, we're 11 to 5, so you've got plenty of time to hit these, and they're all kind of local. There are several of them right down here you can go to, all within reasonable walking distance or short drive if you need that.
Yeah.
A couple on the suburbs, the outskirts a little bit of the town there. But so you can start anywhere and go to anyone.
That's the great part about this tour, is that if you just want to visit one property and leave, you can do that.
Sure, and a lot of people just may want to see, maybe they want to see Allen Chapel.
Yeah, if there's just something that you want to see, you can just see it and go. There's no order that you have to follow.
Yeah.
There's no time limit or anything like that. So it's 11 to 5, and you have 2 days. It's Saturday and Sunday. So over the course of those 2 days, you visit as many or as little as you want. And 3 of them are going to have different hours. St. Mary's, Allen Chapel, and the Masonic Lodge. Their hours are just a little bit different because of services.
Sure.
So, and all that information will be in your booklet, and it's also online. It tells you exactly when they can be visited.
Well, gosh, thanks to the Heritage Association, who have always been behind this. It's always been such a big deal. 52nd year, and I can remember in many years past, let's go back quite a while, this was really a moment. When the Heritage Tour hit with these homes, everybody wanted to know who had the Cameo Awards, whose home was on the tour this year, and again, they were, I don't know if I've ever seen them entirely, not within walking distance, but really within the city limits here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I say that this is going to be a unique tour. It's going to be really eclectic because we have the historical house on Chestnut, the typical one, a traditional one I think you think of when you think of the tour of homes,
yes,
of the downtown,
classic,
gorgeous,
yes,
and that house is absolutely beautiful, and it's owned by the Brills, and their relation from the Brills Bakery,
which is legendary for anybody that knows anything about this
town. And they actually have one of the industrial mixers from that bakery in their kitchen, so you get to see that as well. But yeah, it's just going to be a different tour, different things to look at.
If somebody just sat you down here and you just had one to go to, what would be your choice? You could only choose one. You've never been into Georgia before. You've never been to Sherman House. You have a favorite?
Oh, if I've never been in any of them, I'm going to the Sherman House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
History man that he is.
Yeah, that's probably not a fair question.
We talked a little bit about Sherman coming in. We've got some new mugs that you're promoting right there, and they're just coming out now.
Absolutely.
This guy is somebody to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Absolutely. Yeah, and these new tumblers are just going to be released, and they have a quote on them. And I wanted to do this because this quote is actually something that he said right here in Lancaster to a crowd in the middle of the Civil War.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So in 1863, he comes home on leave, and he goes to the Ewing house, and people realize he's there. They start gathering around the Ewing house. Crowd gathers. They start talking him up and giving speeches out in front of the house. And he comes out and says thank you. And this is part of his speech to the citizens of Lancaster.
Just kind of extemporaneous. He's here, he's home, and let's talk to the folks a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy he was.
Absolutely. Uncle Billy.
Uncle Billy, yeah. He's not only known as Cump, he has other names too.
That's right.
But I know this Sherman whole side of things that you do, that's really become an obvious passion of yours. Yeah. Not that history in general, you don't deal with that because you do so many things with the Elmwood Cemetery and so many things around here in the history, but Sherman, that's your boy.
Yeah, absolutely, by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. That goes back a long ways.
And I would guess that we've talked about people maybe never been in the Masonic home, maybe never seen Allen Chapel, maybe St. Mary's Church. If you don't go there regularly, maybe you don't see it. But I would bet you there's a fair amount of people that it's been decades since they've hit the Sherman House. And you got a new statue up there, right?
We do. We've got a
life size
statue up there.
Have your
more
picture
than
taken
life
with
size.
it? That's right. More than life size.
More than life size.
Have your pic taken with that?
Yeah, you can get your picture taken.
Photobomb that?
Yeah, the Executive Director, Wendy Gregory, and I took him on the road. We took him to...
road trip?
We did. We took him to Columbus for Tourism Day and put him out there at the lawn of the State House.
He's a hit anywhere he is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. So anyway,
absolutely.
Get back to what we're talking about here. The 52nd Tour of Homes coming up. 2 days, and that's a nice thing. You mentioned it. You can just see some on one day, some the next day. You don't have to hit them all.
Yeah, absolutely. And you purchase your tickets. Now, you're not going to get a ticket mailed to you.
Yeah.
Because mailing 400 or 500 tickets, that's just
not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. So what you'll do is when you want to start your tour, you'll just pick up your tour book at either the Sherman House or the Georgian Museum. And we'll mark you off and give you your booklet, and that booklet is your ticket to get into each property.
Yeah.
So they'll mark you off when you come into each property.
Sure. So you got 2 days to do it. It's June 24th, 25th coming up here pretty soon, 11 to 5 each day, and special hours for a couple of those, but they'll be on the brochures.
They'll be on the booklet, and they're already on the website now. That'll let you know.
Well, the first time since 2019 it's back, and I would say bigger and better than ever. I mean, amazing, eclectic, as you say, things from the 60s, whatever it is, you got it on there.
We got it.
Good. Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
52nd Tour of Homes. Get there from the Historical Society here in town. Thanks for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.